Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I will introduce Debra today. So today's program is Earth Kind Gardening, and they'll be presented by our very own Master Gardener, Debra. Debra took the Earth Kind Advanced Training in 2025, and she is currently working to be certified as an Earth Kind Specialist. She will share how to create a thriving garden and landscaping using Earth Kind gardening techniques. Debra Cook has been a member of the Lake Granbury Master Garden Association since 2021. She served as a reporting secretary from 2024 to 2025. She is currently the vice president, and she has moved to Granbury from the Houston area in 2017 and has been continually learning about this very different climate and what grows here. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Debra Cook.
Yes, so I did take the Earth Kind Advanced Training, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a great time, and one of the things that I came out of that training was all the stuff I learned. To me, it's just common sense. You don't think about it. It all comes down to having the right soil with the right plant in the right place. And so that's my little motto for Earth Kind Gardening. So this is the official definition of Earth Kind Gardening: a common sense, practical approach to landscaping that combines the best of organic and traditional methods to produce quality landscaping while protecting the environment and maximizing enjoyment. Earth Kind's sustainable landscaping promotes a balanced landscape ecosystem that conserves water and protects the environment through the judicious use of landscape irrigation, pesticides, and fertilizers. And there's two main basic pillars to Earth Kind gardening. You have soil management and then plant selection. And that is where I get right soil, right plant, right place. And this was in Collin County, and the agent up there, this was his. He was a big soil guy. He said, we want to teach people how to be root farmers. So grow the good roots, feeds the good plant up top. So why are we even talking about Earth Kind gardening? Well, we have a lot of environmental concerns, especially up here. As Andina said, I came up here from the Houston area. I lived in Sugar Land, and it's southwest of Houston, and we get rain all the time, especially when the hurricanes come through. So I had big live oaks. I knew how to grow stuff here. Then I come up here, I don't get rain for an entire summer. So yeah, water is an issue. We have a lot of drought up here. There's a lot of waste through irrigation, and then runoff. We've all seen all the building going around, so when it rains, what used to go down into the soil to recharge everything now hits concrete and runs off. And where we live, we're kind of towards the bottom of the street on our subdivision. So there's a portion of our backyard that, depending on how much rain we get, we either have a small creek or a flowing river at that far back end, because everything's washing down the hill, and at the end of that hill, it's gonna feed into the lake. So what's not getting absorbed is just going off into streams and lakes and sewers. There's misuse of fertilizers and pesticides. I see a small bud get out the big cannon spray and douse the whole plant. Or, you know, if a little teaspoon is good, maybe a tablespoon will be even better for feeding our plants. And then, especially because of pesticides, we're seeing the decline in beneficial insects and pollinators. And then also, we're filling up our landfills with grass clippings, bags of leaves, all kinds of debris that actually could be breaking down and going back and recharging our soil. So the goals that we have then, the reasons why we have Earth Kind is we want to address the water issue. So we're looking at plants and ways to conserve our water. Smarter irrigation, you know, uses of mulch to keep the moisture that's in there, in the soil in. We also want to educate about use of fertilizers and pesticides and, you know, some alternatives that are out there to address that issue. And in addressing that, we will also hopefully help the beneficial insect and pollinator populations, and especially through plant selection. And then by using more of the yard waste that we have through putting down as mulching, or, you know, minimizing the amount of lawn area we have, that can help decrease what goes into the landfills. So, how do we get started in all this? Well, the first thing is you need to have an overall plan for your landscape. When we had our house, the only thing, the house we have up here, we had a 1 acre lot. Our house sits in the middle. At the very front, it's long and narrow. At the very front is a big stand of live oaks. At the very back are a bunch more live oaks. Everything else pretty much is lawn, except for what was up against the house. So it kind of gets dull and boring in the winter time, and I like to see flowers. So I need to come up with an overall plan of what we want to do. And then Rome wasn't built in a day, so I'm going to start out small, one step at a time. Where am I going to start? Work on my soil amendments, and then what do I want to plant there? See, it just all makes sense. So plan your landscape. To do that, you have to map out your property, draw in where you want to put new beds or amend existing beds, maybe pull one out farther. Decide how much lawn or turf area you actually need. We have grandchildren, so I need lots of backyard for them. Noah plays football, Harper's starting soccer, they like to run around. So I need areas that they can run around. And then, so map that out, and then add where you want to add new areas of landscaping. And when you draw these, you need to draw it to scale. So, you know, you have your graph paper and say so many, you know, 2 squares is 1 foot or whatever, but draw it out so you can see how big and how far that's actually going to come out in your yard. And then when you are landscaping and you're coming close to the side of a structure or a fence or something like that, you need to keep at least 8 to 12 inches away from the edge of the structure and where that plant's gonna grow to, because you don't want the roots and everything right up against the side of your structures or your fence. So pick a place to start. This is actually a picture of new bed I was putting in our backyard in Sugar Land. So pick a place to start. You can start small if you want. So figure out the size of the area you're gonna plant. And when you do that, you have to take into account, okay, I have this landscaping here, so I can't put anything here, so if I need to go back, say 8 inches, and I wanna come out 8 inches here, you know, this maybe I only have a foot of width that I can plant in here, so you need to take those kinds of things in mind. Take note of how much sun does this area get, when does it get sun, shade, if there's an area where you get a lot of standing water, or you see runoff runs right through, you need to take those things into account. These actually, back here, were the really big, tall crepe myrtles, so they were up high, but some of the shorter ones, then I would need to know, I have, you know, 6 feet up, I have a big branch coming out. So that's gonna limit me on any heights that I may get. And then what do I want here? Do I want it just to have, you know, flowers? Am I picking a spot where I'm gonna grow vegetables? Is it someplace where I wanna put some shade trees? Just, you know, what is it exactly that I intend for this area? So we've decided on that, so now we need to prep our soil. And one thing to keep in mind is think about what the bottom of a forest looks like. Because, you know, you see leaves there, you see small twigs. This is Mother Nature's way of basically recharging the soil. So we have compost. We have manures we can add. We can, you know, till in leaf clippings. We, at the house that we live in right now, have really heavy red clay around our house, where the existing flower beds are. So to help, and it's tight, so to help build pore space, I mean, we've added compost, but I could also add expanded shale to help keep that from clumping and keeping that pore space so the roots can get through all that. And then you're gonna compost once, but then mulch forever. Because by mulching, all that breaks down, it's just gonna recharge the soil again and help feed in the nutrients, and so, and then, yeah, bottom line, we wanna emulate how Mother Nature manages the floor of a hardwood forest. And if you think about it, all that debris, right, is from plants that are already existing. They're paying back into the soil all the nutrients they've been taken out by growing. So it's kind of that cycle of life. So we got our soil ready. Now we're gonna look at plants. So plant size is important. You need to know not just how wide things are gonna get, but also how tall they're gonna get. You wanna keep spacing in between plants. So if you're gonna plant a series of, say, Texas sage, and they're gonna get to be 4 to 6 feet in width, then you're gonna have a lot of spacing between your little 1 gallon one. And it's gonna look small, and it's gonna look like, don't we need to fill in? No, because as that grows, it's gonna fill in itself. And you don't want things being packed against each other. You wanna keep kind of air flowing through there. It helps disease from spreading as easily. It helps from pests spreading as easily, and it just helps the plant itself by having that space to grow. You wanna think about watering and sun requirements. If you have, where you're planting is on a certain irrigation zone, then everything on that zone needs to have the same water requirements. You don't want something that's extremely drought tolerant next to something that needs to be watered every day. You also want to think about aggressive growing versus well-behaved plants. I planted Henry salvia in this one flower bed we made in our backyard here, and I loved it. I had them in a certain area, and so I had things all around, and it's been 3 years now, and this last spring I all of a sudden noticed, how come I have salvia growing on this other side? I didn't plant it. Oh my gosh, it's there. Oh, it's everywhere. I gave Debra some because she was looking for some. But yeah, it had just made its way around the entire tree instead of this one area. So, if you want things kind of stay in place, then you need to be aware of the growing habits of those plants. A lot of plants reseed, so if you don't, and then of course you'll have more babies coming up. If that's gonna be a problem, then either don't do that or else be aware so you can go clip the seed heads before they all fall. And then you kind of diagram in how you're gonna space them and plant them in the area. So you know the spacing, okay, it's gonna get this big, you draw a little circle, oh, that means I can only plant 3 in this bed or whatever. So it helps you to visualize what it's gonna be like and double check on what you need to get as far as the plantings. All right. So, kinds of plants we like to look for. So, there are ones out there that have the earth kind designation. And this ensures that the plants, everything that's earth kind designated has been researched, and they have been grown to provide the strength and best adaptation to the area, plus they are pest resistant and disease resistant. And they have been field tested across the state. Yes.
So, all these things that you're talking about seem like that they would be good practice for anywhere in the whole world.
Anywhere in the whole.
So,
yes.
so my question is that are earth kind plants basically just earth kind in Texas, or would they be earth kind
They would
in
be
Kentucky?
But they're gonna be field tested for what grows best in Kentucky. So, for example, in Collin County, where I took the training, they have a huge garden up there. And part of their garden is a research garden. So when Texas A&M AgriLife is designing some of these things, and they send some of these plants out to Collin County, they'll send some out to other research gardens across the state, but it's just for this state. So, as I said, they have been field tested, and so they have been also designated Texas Superstars, which are also researched. And then you have Texas native plants and then the Texas adapted plants. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Okay, sorry. I actually have a link there, so I could bring up the database. So earth kind roses come as dwarf shrub, small shrub, medium shrub, and climbers. So you have a variety of sizes there. And then I just noted on this some of the ones that are under each type.
So when you go to a nursery, let's say, will it say earth kind on it or
Yes.
no? It will?
It will.
Okay, and that's for Texas usually?
Yes.
Okay.
Because these are all tested to be proven to grow well here in Texas. So, and yeah, like I say, they've been tested across the state, and they are proven to be drought tolerant, to be pest resistant and disease resistant. Texas Superstars, that's another label. Those are also research based, and they are again tested to provide superior performance and heat tolerance. This is my Henry Goldberg in my backyard now, and you can see how it's overtaken my poor little bird back there. So, and they come as annuals, perennials, something called per annual, which I had never heard of before, but actually that is a tropical that you can plant as an annual, I believe. Yeah. So, yeah. Woody shrubs, they're categorized as woody shrubs, trees, and then they have an area called specialty plants. And this will work when it gets posted up, but that tile, if you click on it, it'll take you to the Texas Superstars plant database. But I also have the resource link names at the end of this. So Texas Superstars, I have some examples up there. I mean, annuals, they have all kinds of bluebonnets, petunias, perennials, there's hibiscus, different kinds of grasses, lantanas, the per annual plants, Brazilian red hots, Alternathea, and the Pride of Barbados, woody shrubs, and the different kinds of trees. And the specialty plants were mostly vegetables, herbs, and fruits, like grapes, vines, and things like that. The native plants, so the word native means that the plants that were actually growing naturally here before European colonization. So why do we want to go with natives? Well, of course, we know they're drought tolerant. They've survived here forever. They're natural to the ecosystem, so they support the native wildlife and birds and insect populations that we have here. They provide habitat and food for insects and bees and wildlife, birds. They don't need any special pampering or fertilizing. And then it also helps maintain the biodiversity for the area. And that'll take you to the Texas Natives database. But examples of perennials, the green milkweed, butterfly milkweed, yarrow, different kinds of verbena, sage, trees, the ash juniper, desert willow, blackjack oak. I had never heard of that one before. So, but again, that's what's been growing here, and that's what, you know, all the wildlife and native species here have depended on for so long. So we really want to keep that going. And then Texas adapted. I couldn't find a real definition, but they're non-native plants, but they're proven to have performed well in this area. Again, drought tolerant, so they're not gonna need the watering, providing the habitats, the same habitat supporting the wildlife. And then it helps with the biodiversity. And so I have some examples up there as well. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention that it's real interesting with the research, what they do for the Texas Superstars and the earth kind plants, because you get them in the first year, like in Collin County, in their garden, the first year, they would take care of them to get them established. After that first year, the only thing they got was what God gave them. So if it didn't rain for 3 months, they didn't get watered for 3 months. And so what survived there is really gonna work, so. All right, maintenance. Once, you get things established, like I say, don't need a whole lot. You don't need all the extra water because they're grown to be drought tolerant. You should mulch around to help keep the moisture in the ground when it does get water, and then also to help break down and feed the systems. A 3 to 4 inch layer is ideal. If you get too much in there, then it holds the water too long. Leave a space between the mulch and the edge of like a tree trunk or thick woody shrub stems. And a good layer of mulch helps keep down weeding. So it saves you on that, and it cools the soil in the hot water. Again, weed beds is needed, weeds are gonna grow, but a good layer of mulch will help keep that down. And trimming, as far as trimming, you cut perennials back after a hard freeze and trim them back in the summer, and then trees and shrubs as needed during the year. And then roses trim in February and June. Okay, the last thing then is pest management. So insects are still an important part of a backyard ecology, right? Birds come in. It was 2 years ago, 3 years ago when we had all the grasshoppers, and our house backs up to what used to be Hidden Oaks Golf Course, which is now a wildlife habitat. We had roadrunners in our yard racing back and forth, catching grasshoppers. It was great. 2 years ago, we had all the armyworms, and we have bluebird houses two bluebird houses in our backyard. And all of a sudden one day I'm noticing it wasn't just bluebirds, but these birds that kept landing in the backyard, and I didn't know why. And the neighbor next door was texting my husband and said, he's having the lawn doctor come out to spray for the armyworms. Do we want that? And I'm going like, no, we have our own. All these birds coming down to eat it. We didn't have any problems at all. It was great. So, insects are important. They feed the wildlife. They pollinate, plants. So the goal is to manage what is there, not to eradicate everything. So in earth-kind, what you want to try and do is prevent the problem to begin with. So if you get disease-resistant plants, like I've mentioned, that helps right there. You can, if you maintain the soil health, that maintains the health of the plant. Insects are more likely to go to plants that are suffering. And then regularly inspect, be out there looking, to try and get ahead if you do see something. And then before you start spraying, figure out what it is you've got, because it may actually be the larva for a ladybug or something that you want to keep around, not necessarily every caterpillar is a bad thing. And then start with the least toxic solutions. You've got spray hose to spray things off. And if you don't have that many things on there, maybe you don't need to do anything anyway. That's why watching is a good thing. Debra's wonderful solution for aphids, to wash things off. But don't, just try and start with the easy things first. Is it something that you can just go out there and pick a few things off? And my mom, everywhere we lived, we had flowers and we had vegetables. And we were in Carrollton for a while, and in the backyard,